You're listening to Interviews, the podcast that cracks the entrepreneurship code. I'm your host, Laurent Autin. I'm an entrepreneur, coach to entrepreneurs, and startup mentor with more than 20 years' experience running companies and advising entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur is the most difficult job there is. There are no practical guidelines. So join me every week and learn how you can better navigate your entrepreneurship journey and become an exceptional entrepreneur. This is episode 128 with Brett Martin, co-founder and investor at Charge Ventures. Brett defines himself as an entrepreneur, angel investor, pragmatist, and optimist. Having spent most of his career in the startup trenches, he now focuses on supporting other entrepreneurs as managing partner of a small seed stage venture fund, Charge Ventures. They invest 200 to 500K at the earliest stages of company formation and then help founders take things from 0 to 1. Brett is also the co-founder of Kumospace, the world's most immersive video chat platform. And in addition, because it's never enough, Brett is an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where he teaches product strategy and entrepreneurial finance. Hi, Brett. Thank you very much for joining me.
Howdy, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here. I think episode 128 is going to be a really great one.
All right. Challenge accepted. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
I'm from Ocean City, Maryland. It's a small mid-Atlantic beach town in the United States, and I got my entrepreneurial journey kicked off selling seashells by the seashore with my sister. And we used to take buy shells from local fishermen for $2 a bushel, scrub them up, clean them up, and then sell them for $2 a piece to tourists, which was a fine markup. And we did really well until my parents caught me paying my sister hourly, and came in and regulated the profits out of the business. And we just split it.
How old were you?
I maybe 12. So it was good. It was a good lesson in ethics and regulation. But ever since then, I've either been building or investing in startups. So came out of school and went to New York, and other than a brief 2-year tour at an investment bank, it's just been playing with tech ever since.
And so today, how would you define yourself? Like a VC, an entrepreneur VC?
Like, honestly, I think if I had to say, I'd say building things is probably my is a much more natural mode. But the VC is kind of the best job in the world, right? People give you a pile of money, you sit on top of it, you meet a bunch of really interesting founders who are really passionate and putting in 120%, and then you pick a few that you really like and you give them money, and then you hopefully get rich together. I mean, it's kind of a dream job. I particularly like it at the really early stage when it's really unclear who's gonna be successful, and what's gonna win, and working with people to turn sort of just an idea into a reality. It's really fun and a fortunate job.
When did you start Charge Ventures?
Well, it's, I guess, almost 8 years ago now. So we're in our third fund, and we started, actually, my Fulbright advisor, which is like a U.S. government funded research grant. I had gone to Italy. I quit the investment bank, and then I lived on a sailboat for a while, and then we did a band for the summer, and then I went to Italy and lived in Milan and did research on startups. And my Fulbright advisor from then, he reached back out to me years later and basically said, "Hey, we've got a couple of these kind of like large billion-dollar family offices in Southern Europe that were investing willy-nilly off balance sheet into trying to find early stage tech startups in the US to invest in." And they said, well, okay, maybe we should professionalize this. And so I went over there to Greece thinking I was going to be was going to be a summer project, and then here I am 8 years later on the third fund. So it's funny how life works.
Yeah. So it's not every day that I talk to a VC. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that for all the startups funders out there. How many decks do you receive a year?
Thousands.
What does it mean? Do you have time to read all of them?
Look, I definitely try to scan all of the emails. And if someone sends me a truly personalized email,
Mm.
not just taking their template and slapping my name on it, or if they do some research about why you know I might like the deal that they're pitching, or it might be a fit for charge, then I will at least try to read it. And often with those, I definitely try to get back. However, if I'm just getting something as part of a mass BCC, I don't feel a strong obligation to respond personally.
Okay, so start by the basic. You're saying write a proper email that is a personalized email. But then how do you make your selection?
Selection, it has many layers. I mean, the first one is like, do you open the email from the subject line? The second is,
Mm.
do you read it? And then finally, do you respond? And then, do you open up the deck, and then do you take a meeting? Well, I'll talk about the two sides of it. I mean, the short answer is that what folks probably know, which is, if you come in through someone I know and trust their taste in businesses, then I'm gonna look at it, even if it's not something that I net like off the cuff under, even if it's something that I didn't make sense initially, right?
Yeah.
If you sent me something and said, Brett, this is amazing, I really trust these guys, like I would take a look at it and I would have a call with them. Um, it, you know, that's the shortcut. And if you don't have that connection, what the best thing to do would be find that connection,
Mm.
look for the mutual connections, and then reach out. But you'd be surprised how hard it is to, I think Steve Jobs is the one that's often quoted for saying how hard it is to build something that's really simple and clean. And I think a pitch is the same way. If you can summarize why what you're building is valuable in a few sentences and why you have a unique take, and especially to do it, then you're probably on your way to raising money.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of decks, not myself, which are very generic, I would say. But it's always so difficult to get out of your product. Always so difficult. I see so many startups making always the same mistake. Like they have difficulty to talk about their customers, what's in it but for them, what are the benefits for them. And I guess you must see the same thing with you. Is like what's in it for you as an investor, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the other thing that I don't feel often gets talked about a lot
Yeah.
is that a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes, and kudos to them, they're very persistent, and they will pitch you your elevator pitch, and then if it's not for you, they'll keep pitching you, and keep trying to convince an investor why they should invest. But my experience is that investors are rarely convinced. Usually, they have an idea of what they're looking for, or idea that they have in mind, and they're just looking for it. And so really, as an entrepreneur, your idea is not to convince 20 investors to invest in you, but rather find that one who is looking for someone just like you. And in
Mm.
that sense, it is a numbers game. You got to get in front of as many people until until you find that perfect match.
Yeah, it's like finding your clients. It's like you don't go after everyone. So it's the same with the investors. Don't go after everyone. It's interesting because also you have also like so you're a VC, but you also like with Kumospace, you're a startup funder too. So you play in both worlds. Do you
Play
finance
both
yourself?
sides.
Do you pitch to
Yeah.
yourself?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I definitely, scrutinizing our deck, but I have to say, my co-founder, Yang, who, we've worked on three businesses and known each other for over a decade. One of his specialties is he is amazing at um, simplifying things. He
Mm.
amazing at clarifying things and removing things. And I think it's Y Combinator is about to have their demo day. That's the kind of famous big accelerator
Yeah.
in the US. And you know, the main thing that they do, I would say, is because I, you know, been looking at a bunch of pitches, is that they have a very strong, clear design and template for what these pitches look like. And all of these founders, you know, whether their technology is any good or not, they have amazing pitches. And it's, you know, a very much a script, right? And, you know, if
Mm.
you run a sales team, then you know, like, stay on script, right? Stop trying to improv and improvise and be unique. Like, find the thing that works and then just, you know, beat it to death, beat it to death. And all the Y Combinator pitches look equally beautiful, which makes, as an investor, makes it quite challenging to figure out which ones are going to be valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. So what are you trying to do with Kumospace? Tell me a little bit about.
That's kind of the interesting part. So I had done Charge. I had think it was my sixth year into Charge, and was very happy just, you know, focusing on investing. And you know, usually if I saw a business that had you know, high margins and, you know, really large TAM, and you know, had a big trend pushing it from behind, and had, you know, inherent virality, and, you know, the potential for a moat, you know, those are all things we look for in companies we invest in at Charge, and usually just would give that company money, and you know, so is, you know, play a supporting role, right? It's a lot easier to invest than it is to build in terms of the energy expended. But with Kumospace, there was a, you know, it personally spoke to me, you know, the mission of providing a new form of interaction online where people could interact more authentically. You know, that's, if you look at all the businesses I've ever started, they all share that theme. And
Mm.
that's, I think, what I'm looking for when I see entrepreneurs. Like, I want to see that founder market fit, that unique connection that the founder has to that particular idea, where it is, you know, more than just a business, right? It's some sort of personal calling. And I happen to feel that way about Kumospace. So, you know, it had been maybe 8 or 9 years since the last company I started, and so I sort of started just trying to help my friend with the idea, and then I was angel investing, and then I was investing out of the fund, and then we were
Mm.
incubating it out of the, and then, you know, we ended up incubating it out of the fund, and just couldn't help it. Sometimes, you know, when you see the thing that you're meant to be doing, you
Yeah.
can't help yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the why the entrepreneurs are who they are. They can't help it. They have to do it. It's a calling. Being an entrepreneur is a calling. There you go. You just said it again differently, but that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I tell people who are thinking about starting businesses, I say, don't do it unless literally you can't help, you can't do anything else,
Yeah.
because there'll always be easier ways of making money. That, you know, there'll always be less stressful ways of making money. So only do it if there's something else you can do.
Yeah. So what does it mean for you to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Steve Blank, who's a professor at Stanford and also a multi-time founder, you know, he said a startup is a temporary organization formed in pursuit of you know, perceived opportunity, something
Mm.
like that. And so I guess an entrepreneur is the person running that experiment, and you know, trying to guide a team of people toward that you know, opportunity discovery. And so I guess it's a bit like kind of like an old school explorer, you know, where you sort of had a hunch that there was you know, a what do you call it, you know, a land of milk and honey over the horizon, and you gotta give it. There's that famous quote. I can't remember who says it. I think it's a French guy. It says, you know, if you want to you know, explore distant lands, you know, don't assemble men, you know, chop wood, and build a ship. You know, teach men to yearn for the vast and open sea. And
Mm.
I feel like, you know, running a company is sort of similar to that. You got to get everyone, you know, fully bought in on the mission.
As a VC slash entrepreneur slash startup founder, whatever we want to describe you, you have quite a a specific eye on entrepreneurship, and you have seen a lot of decks, you have seen a lot of startup funders. What are the key lessons about success in entrepreneurship?
I mean, that's a difficult one because I just keep making mistakes. You know, maybe the key lesson is, you know, resilience. I think, I don't know. This is top of mind because, my, you know, girlfriend is also a VC, and she was talking to her friend who's, an entrepreneur, and, you know, had a, difficult founder breakup. And,
Mm,
it's been really hard for this founder to recover from that. And, I fully understand. I mean, you take some really hard hits as an entrepreneur. I think a founder breakup is one of the worst you could experience. And, it's hard for other people to understand this, but sometimes it takes years for people to get over these things. They've worked, for multiple, they poured themselves into something for years, and then all of a sudden, their partner, leaves them, and then they're, it takes half of the equity, away, and, it's hard. It's like, the kid arguing over the kid. And
yeah.
so I think, one of the successful things I've seen is, these multi-time founders, they fail fast. You hear that a lot, right? But what you don't hear people talk about is, like, they have to be resilient. They have to recover quickly, mentally, from that failure, and then, quickly get back the courage, and just, self-esteem to try again, right? You can't take
Mm,
that failure as, like, personally, you can't take it as I am a failure, because you're never going to start, in the next billion-dollar company with that attitude, right? You have to come
yeah.
into it, with the, you know with your head up high, and with the belief that, like, you could be the next Elon Musk. And so, that's a tough thing if you just if you fail multiple times, which is kind of inevitable on that path. So, there's no secret for success here, but one thing I will highlight is, resilience.
You talk about self-esteem, also the ability to find self-esteem. This is the first time I hear someone saying it. I've heard the word like resilience before. Why do you think it's so important?
Let's just talk about for fundraising. So,
Yeah.
again, we've looked at a bunch of these kind of Y Combinator companies, and, the you know even though every pitch, is the same, in the sense that it's, the same script. They're all playing videos. All the slides have very little words, and, all big graphics and big block lettering. Um, the presentation is each different, and it varies
Mm,
based on the skill of the person doing it. And so, some people are kind of robotic about it. You can tell they're following a script, whereas other people can follow the script, but doing it in a very natural way, and in a kind of a way that, assumes that it's that the person giving the pitch is speaking the same language as the investor. And,
mm,
that assumes a level of peerness. Hey, I'm sharing my business with you, and we're going to have a dialogue about it. And, maybe you're not going to invest, maybe you are, but at the end of the day, like, we have kind of this peer relationship. And that sort of, confidence, is, I think, part of the gloss that investors gravitate toward. And, whether rightly or wrongly, I mean, it doesn't necessarily map to the ability to build a business. It does, however, map to the ability to fundraise for a business. And I
mm,
think that's in part because, ultimately, you as a founder are going to know your business way better than any investor, or at least you should. And so, a lot of times investors know less, and they're really just kind of scrutinizing they're scrutinizing your confidence, right? They're basically looking for any missteps or uncertainty that you are showing. And if you show that, then they aren't going to have confidence. And so, having self-confidence and belief is really important in that sense, because investors are going to train on anything less than that, and it's going to cost you the fundraise.
If I read between the line, don't come up with your big ego, because you won't get funded like this.
Well, I'm saying that you need to believe in yourself, actually. If you don't
Mm,
believe in what you're doing, you're never going to get an investor to believe what you're doing.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I think the flip side of that is, now don't be dogmatic and or arrogant. And if an investor asks you a question that like you don't have an honest answer for, or don't bullshit through it,
yeah.
or or ignore it, like that's also not going to work. But I think that, you know, you have to have like confidence in what you're doing, and that will reassure potential investors.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you look at all the things you have accomplished so far, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I'm fortunate. I have very few regrets. I think I could probably most of my regrets are on a hand, on my I can keep on one hand. Um, Honestly, most of them are just not jumping more at opportunities that I had the chance to. One example is my good friend from college. She, really amazing person. She was a trader, and then she went and traveled the world for a year, and then she came back and she started doing these trips. Um, Basically taking yuppies from the city on like outing trips, like camping and hiking and canoeing and things like
Mm,
that. And she asked me, "Hey, do you want to, come do this business with me?" And I remember at the time thinking, "Oh, that's I love my friend Maya, but that's not going to scale." And sure enough, she scaled it up and then sold the business. And since then, she's actually gone on, and she was head of people at Stripe, and then head of M&A and
mm,
investing, and is just like literally clearly like a like top 0.1% caliber person. And I had faith in and so not just taking the plunge when someone truly, you had the opportunity to work with someone that's truly amazing. I would say that that's definitely a regret.
why didn't you go with her?
Young people in particular sometimes get caught up in the details and are sort of rigid about I think they underestimate the like the uncertainty and the importance of who you're working with, and overestimate kind of like some theory about what will or will won't work. And the reality is, like, if you have just absolutely amazing people, then good things come from that.
Yeah. The first time we talked, you were in Costa Rica, I think, if I remember well, or somewhere where there was like a fantastic view. Today you are in New York. You travel quite a lot, and I know for the conversation that we've had before that integrating work and life together is really important for you. Can you explain it a bit? Why is that, and how you arrange your life around work or arrange work around life?
Yeah, this is a topic very near and dear to me, because
Yeah.
I have lots of things I like to do, and so how do you do lots of things and actually still get anything done? And so my personal theory is that you could do a lot of things as long as they all reinforce each other. So every time you do one thing, it pushes along everything. If everything's moving in different directions, and you don't get leverage from doing one on the others, then you don't go anywhere, right? You kind of
Mm,
spin in circles. And so, Kumospace, the startup, that Yang and I have been building, is, that's kind of the one of the core ethoses behind it, is that you don't have to choose between we think there's this kind of false dichotomy where it's like, okay, either you can return to the office, and you get the benefits of the office, you get to connect with your coworkers, and be productive, quote unquote, but then you have to commute an hour to work each way, and you can't get you have to sit there and do FaceTime, and you have to do all this stupid stuff with these like corporate rituals. um or the alternative is you can work from home, and then you can, it's great. You have the flexibility and you have the freedom, and you don't have to commute, and you can work from anywhere. But you can't actually, have that real office culture, and be
Mm,
productive, and your boss can't, you're not working as hard according to your boss, right? And so we think that's like kind of a false dichotomy, and really there's kind of a third way where you can be just as productive, if not more productive remote, because you don't have to commute, but you can be in an environment that is really productive and also conducive to building real human relationships, so you can build that culture, you can build that trust, and you can really collaborate effectively. But then you can do that with the freedom of that's provided by today's technology, and you can you know do it at home, and you can spend time with your kids, and you
mm.
can make them breakfast or drop them off at school, or tuck them in at night. And you can, if you're single and maybe you like to surf, maybe you can do all of that from Costa Rica, and build a company while sitting next to a surf break. And so I think in that sense, like, Kumospace is again representative of what I want the world to be like, in a place where you don't have to compromise on you know having your cake and eating it too, in terms of being productive and also living the life you want to live.
It's interesting. I agree with you. But for entrepreneurs, it's so hard because work all the time that they don't spend enough. They have difficulty to find this work-life balance that you're talking about. So what do you do? What do you have any specific tips that you can give?
I don't know, work-life balance. Like, this is a hot topic in remote work world. Oh, we don't have boundaries anymore, and we used to go into the office, and then leave the office and left work in the office. And I think this conversation is kind of overblown, and I actually think
Mm,
it's about, like, honestly, if you worked a professional, high, like, an upwardly mobile job in the past 20 years, you haven't left work at home. I mean, when I worked at the investment bank in 2004, I had a BlackBerry, and there's emailing me when I was paging me when I wasn't at work, right? So I don't think for 20 years you've left work at the office at 5 p.m. if you were professionally ambitious.
mm.
And so I don't think that nowadays, with remote work, people are talking how they're working all different hours and times of the day. My thing is, it's just give people more freedom and flexibility. So I think the future is less like, oh, we have really hard boundaries from 9 to 5, but rather we're more integrated. And yeah, maybe we do work a little bit at 9 p.m. before we go to bed, but that's because we went out to dinner with our friends from 7 to 9, or maybe we can get up and go surfing before we start work at 8 o'clock. And so I think of the future as more integration. Now, that said, one nice thing about Kumospace and our company is that a lot of people who use it, it's a virtual office product, right? So remote teams all sign to Kumospace every morning. They come in and they pile into office. If you went to our office at Kumospace right now, it's 9 o'clock at 9:30. You would see a bunch of folks piling in, and eventually by 10 we'd have 30 people in there working in the office. And you know in that same extent, people are there when they're working, and we're synchronous and we can connect with each other. And then at the end of the day, 6, 7 p.m., people start filing out. I was there working late last night with my co-founder, and there was a handful of people still working there. And so I do think that products like Kumospace make it a little easier to have those boundaries. But ultimately, I think it's better just to have the flexibility to work when when you need to work, and and be where you want to be when the rest of the time.
But it requires that you give yourself the permission to be flexible, which
Yeah,
can
I
be
mean, that's the
tough.
one thing that is just all the literature about work says, is that people want flexibility. They want geographical flexibility, and they want temporal flexibility. And I look, it's not perfect. You can't have everything you want. If your whole team's working on Eastern Standard Time and you want to work on Tokyo time, I mean, it's going to be challenging, because
Yeah.
there's one thing we know, which is People talk about this, oh, we're going to go async, everything is async. And I think, yeah, a lot of work can be done asynchronously, but there's a bunch of research that shows that if if you want to collaborate, you need to be synchronous to collaborate, right? Because if you think about
Yeah.
what collaboration is, it's like it's the it's the sort of gestalt product of the two of us kind of riffing off each other, right? So you can't just write a document and then I comment on it today and then you read my comments tomorrow and then you make more comments. That is a it's not just a difference in what do they call it? It's a difference in kind from us sitting there, looking at a whiteboard together and kind of having, mixing ideas, and then, something totally different comes out of that. And
Mm.
so, I think, everyone, you can't just have perfect asynchronous, work. You need to find some time to really like be there together with your team. So, which is all to say that like, yeah, you can't have everything you want, but you can have anything you want.
All right. One last question for you before we wrap up this conversation. Um, what would be the one recommendation that you would give to other entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or startup funders?
Trying to think of something not banal, but honestly, it just comes down to surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mm.
And everything starts there. I think a lot of the mistakes I've made were not thinking highly enough of myself to aim for the stars when, seeking out people to work with. And every time it's worked, it's when I've like really pushed to recruit and join and be joined by the absolute like best people that I was most excited to work with, and where I've had challenges or where I kind of settled for less. And so yeah, I think hold out for the right person, and it doesn't mean just like asking them. I think if you really want to get the best people, like you actually got to just get started yourself. And it's one thing to say, hey, if everyone looking for technical co-founder, you can say, hey, I've got this great idea. If you build it for me, we'll be rich. That's not a very good pitch. But if you say, hey, I'm building, this $1 billion company, it's happening one way or not, but you should get involved. That's a much better pitch. And so, yeah, get the best people, but don't wait for them. Just get started.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Brett, for that conversation. One more question. How can people contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for a virtual office for your remote or hybrid team, hit me up. It's Brett BRETT at kumospace.com. And if you're looking for raising early stage funding, then probably best place is hit me up on Twitter. It's Brett BRETT 1211, or just find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Again, thank you for your time, Brett.
Thank you, Lauren. It's a pleasure being here.
And thank you for listening. Interviews Cracking the Entrepreneurship Code is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So do yourself a favor and subscribe now so you don't miss any episodes. See you next time. Bye for now.